Welcome to Girls Gone Wellness, Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you on the pod to talk about one of my favorite topics. I have followed along with your Instagram for quite a while now because, first of all, it's incredible. It's science backed. It's all the stuff Jeanette and I love. But also, I love that your account is super functional and super digestible because there is so much BS in the body recomp space, in the weight loss space, and so much chatter that, like, it's no wonder it's probably so overwhelming for women. And so we really love that, like, just your information is just so easy to digest. I think I have like probably 90% of your posts saved so that I can refer to them for my own patients. So I really, really appreciate that. And I'm super excited to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you very much. It can be a grind. It's like, sometimes feels like with all that stuff out there, like I feel like I'm going crazy and I'm just saying
Yeah.
the same things. I don't say a ton of revolutionary stuff, but
Mm.
like it doesn't take long to scroll before you're like, "Oh, people really do need to keep hearing the same stuff over and
Yep.
over because it's
It's
endless."
so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. And at some point, I think we're going to realize all the revolutionary shock factor things are just not working for us. And we're going
Mhm.
to have to go back to the basics. So that's what we love about your account. Why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've kind of had a little bit of a wild career, or at least I started out all over the place. Just like got into the gym early in high school because I was like super small and wanted to build muscle. Didn't really work out that well, but spent like 10 years just trying all the BS out there. Like any type of shortcut, I would try to do it, and actually ended up going to school for finance, got a job in the finance world, and then I just wanted to do something more towards health and fitness. Ended up going and joining the fire department, which was a little bit of a step towards more of an active career. And then while I was there, I was still just like obsessing over nutrition and exercise science. So kind of started to coach some friends and family, and then over time just kind of I was there. I was on the fire department for a little over 4 years, and then from there just realized like, yeah, I should get a certification and just start coaching people because that's what I love to do. Yeah, and then just started kind of writing actually on Twitter at first, and kind of started taking paid clients during the COVID time when the remote coaching kind of took off, and then
Hmm.
uh, yeah, here we are.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I love hearing that. And I think like me and Vic talk about this all the time with our guests, but when you have that personal experience, it makes everything so much more better when it comes to like coaching clients and things like that because you have your own personal experience. And I know me and Vic have our own stories when it comes to joining naturopathic medicine as well and why we got into our careers as well, but it makes you understand where people are coming from as well. And especially when we talk about body recomposition, getting into the gym, resistance training, nutrition, you can understand why people get so overwhelmed, right? Because there is so much out there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's like I don't want to say this like coming off as if I'm on some high horse, but like what you just said about you know going through it yourself, I feel like from my point of view, it's so easy to spot the people that still haven't really gotten to a good place with their health and fitness in the
Mm-hmm.
way they're talking to other people and kind of yelling at them, like very rigid about it. I'm like, I don't. It just jumps out very quickly that that way of going about it can be it can be a mental gauntlet really of just beating
Yeah.
yourself up, and then they're
Hmm.
just kind of projecting that onto other people, yelling at them for eating a processed food every once in a while or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's so much more complicated than that for sure. How did you get into like posting on Instagram and things like that? You said that you started on Twitter, right? How did you jump over to Instagram and like build the following that you have now?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I mean, gosh, there was just endless like coaches and things like that, like make money online type of a thing. And I started writing over there, but I was like for some reason I was like embarrassed to because my Instagram was all personal connections and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then so I just, one day was like, screw it, I'm gonna do it, and started just literally. That's why like most of my posts are just like carousel style text because that's what I was writing on Twitter. So then I started
Mm.
posting them over to Instagram and uh, like joined a mentorship that was like gave you a basic uh, script for talking to people in the DMs and getting them on a call and signing them up, and it kind of started to work, and then kind of just poured gasoline on the fire from there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
amazing. I want to jump into the content now. You're big on not necessarily needing to track calories, and this is a big topic online as well. So, what does the science say, or what do you talk to your clients about behind fat loss without tracking calories?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, first and foremost, the science, it's honestly not that great for showing actually losing weight without tracking food. But honestly, like,
Mm.
it's not that great for any method, right? Like, if we look at just science, like, not many people are having a ton of success. So, what we talk our clients through, that's kind of our North Star end goal, but it's not necessarily where we're going to start. So, if we have somebody that has a lot of weight to lose, we absolutely can end up seeing a lot more progress without jumping necessarily straight to tracking their food. However, we're big fans of tracking, maybe not full macros and like dividing it up between meals perfectly, but just an overall calorie, protein, fiber target just to build awareness around food.
Mhm.
Because it can be so powerful for that. But basically, we kind of see it as a spectrum from and I'm sure you guys are more familiar with this, but like the only time we'd go beyond like macros or calorie and protein tracking would be if somebody needs an elimination diet and has very specific symptoms or something like that. But for most of
Mhm.
our Gen Pop clients that don't have those things going on, we're big fans of tracking in the short term to learn the patterns. But then we kind of stair step it. So like we ran a workshop for our clients recently where we kind of laid this out where first and foremost, I think most people should try tracking without tracking in a deficit if they have weight to lose so that they can just get
Mm.
used to it. Like that's a
Yeah.
skill in itself. And then from there, it's like, all right, let's kind of stair step and go from tracking rotational meals and then let's just go to those rotational meals regularly. So it's like you can
Yeah.
kind of spot check here and there, like audit your day, but for the most part, like when you're in routine, you can just be going to those same meals over and over. But the
Mm.
idea is that just like over time, if someone's not against tracking, hey, let's use that. It's going to be a more precise for sure to get to your goal and then maximize calories and start to kind of move away from it once you're there. But that's not to say that tracking long term is bad either. Like
Mhm.
if you don't mind it and it's keeping you at your goal, there's no rush away from it. Yeah, I'll stop babbling for a second
No.
there because I feel like because now my mind's like, all right, if somebody has more weight to lose versus if they have less, like
I know.
Yeah.
I
so.
It's
know.
yeah.
It's nuanced. And I always think of like when I started my kind of journey with all this, I tried tracking and realizing how much peanut butter you put on like a tablespoon of peanut butter is not a
Yeah.
tablespoon of peanut butter. Number
Yes,
one.
yeah,
But also, even on the opposite end of things, like I was not eating enough chicken. I
yeah,
started weighing chicken. I was eating like 2.5 ounces. I was like, oh, here I am thinking I'm getting 30 grams of protein. I'm not even close.
yeah.
Right. So the awareness is key. And I try to tell patients that too, because there's so much stigma, I think, around
Mhm,
tracking. People think,
mhm,
oh, it's like it's an eating disorder and all of these things. But really, it can actually be, I think, maybe this is unpopular, but an avenue to food freedom because you realize that everything fits. You can
mhm,
enjoy all your favorite foods and you can have this awareness of like, this is the portion that my body needs to get enough protein, to get enough healthy fats, all of those things. And so I do think that there's actually some benefit to tracking beyond just like the calories in, calories out. But in my own personal experience, I try to get patients to just start doing it for 2 to 3 weeks
Yeah.
and then see how it feels, right? Like long term, like you said, it works for some people. But if you can just get people just to do it, even for a short term, I think it's so powerful. I really,
Mhm.
really like
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
That's what
sure.
I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always try to highlight too, because at first you find it, especially if you're used to more restrictive things, you're
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, this is great. But if you're not careful and you just hone in on the numbers only, it can become this thing where you're like, well, I don't even know what hunger is or what I feel like in
Yeah.
response to food. So just making sure that we're also paying attention to those habits around intuitive eating and mindful eating. It doesn't have to be either
Yeah.
or. Let's focus on
Yep.
those while we're tracking, and then that
I like
can
that.
provide context long term too.
Yeah. Are you using like MyFitnessPal? Like, is there any specific apps you like to get people started? Yeah.
Yeah, we use for our clients we use Trainerize, so they can either track directly in there or they can track in MyFitnessPal and it'll sync over.
Okay.
For people that don't work with a coach and aren't really having trouble sticking with things and just need their calories and macronutrients program for them, I really like Carbon. It's like an AI based. You input your weight 3 times a week and you put in a goal and it'll adjust for you. Now, obviously, it needs to be very consistent for that to work. So
Yeah.
if you don't have trouble sticking with something, that's a great solution. That's like less than $10, I think, a month.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, good to know. Do you find people track accurately? It's probably helpful if you have a coach because you could be like, no, that's completely inaccurate.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely not. And it's like, and it's not even every time we have this conversation with a client or someone like in our program, like we just started a group thing, and we were having this conversation yesterday, and every time it's like, this is not about you, like individually. I don't think you're lying. I don't think you're like grabbing stuff on the side, like maybe you are, but it's all of us. Like, number one, labels can be off. It's
Yeah.
never going to be perfect. Number two, I'm sure you guys are familiar. There's a study with registered dietitians that were like 50% off, like trying to recount what they were eating for a day. So it's like, if a registered
Wow.
dietitian can't do it, like if it's your
Yeah.
first week tracking, yeah, you're way off. So it's a fine line between like making adjustments versus
Hmm.
like, okay, let's just actually get consistent with this number we're at.
Yeah. Okay. That's the thing. It's hard because you never want someone thinking that you're like accusing them of lying. It's
Right.
just hard to
Right.
know. It's hard to
Yeah.
know exactly what you're having. And then if you're not measuring, right?
Hmm.
Then it's also like
Hmm.
you really don't you have no idea.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the most misunderstood areas of fat loss in the wellness space. So we see a lot of like starvation mode, you're holding on to fat, reverse dieting, which I definitely need your thoughts on because I
Mhm.
see so much about reverse dieting. I want to get into those. Like, what are some of the ones that drive you nuts? And let's debunk them.
Okay. So, I mean, this is a good segue from what we just talked about.
Hmm.
Yes, there are people that think they've been eating 1,200 calories and they're not losing weight. They're not eating 1,200 calories. Maybe they are if they're, a 4'11" female and they're 110 pounds. Like it, that 1,200 gets thrown around.
Hmm.
Most of the time, people are just eating a lot more and moving a lot less than they think. So that is not to say that eating more eating more, and for people listening, I put air quotes, isn't useful. But I think the messaging being sent out, especially with the reverse dieting, is that something's broken in people and their metabolism is dysfunctional or broken. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not. It, you can be burning less calories than someone that, the majority of, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but like if we zoom out, like, all right, what is your metabolism, right? A large percentage of your metabolism is your basal metabolic rate. which is a large part determined by your muscle mass. And so if you have less muscle mass, yeah, you're going to be burning less calories than someone who has more muscle mass at your weight. But that doesn't mean anything's broken. It just means, hey, let's build some muscle. Let's focus on getting stronger so that you burn more calories at rest. And so I think a lot of the things that get thrown out there in the name of forget about calories, if you ask people to explain why, it just directly relates to calories in some way.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not someone, because I think it's just as annoying when people are like, all you need is a calorie deficit. That's all you need. And it's like, all right, well, there's thousands of things that impact your calorie balance.
Mhm.
So all that to say, I mean, for example, reverse dieting, there are a lot of coaches that's their thing. And we're going to take you through a reverse diet because you need to repair or fix your metabolism before you can actually lose fat. And what comes out of that is eating enough to fuel your body, lifting weights, moving more, eating more fiber, eating more protein. Those are great things. And the reason that they're helping is that you're adding some muscle mass and you are moving more. And then so people are like, yeah, I fixed my metabolism and then I could lose weight. And it's like, yeah, or you just got really consistent and you started moving more and you felt better and then you cut calories and your BMR was higher because you built some muscle and you're moving more. And so it's easier to lose weight at a higher amount of calories.
Mhm.
So, and it's tough because some people might be using that. I don't think that anyone's like deliberately like, I'm going to lie to people and do this. It's just frustrating on my end when I'll have like someone who has like 40 to 50 pounds to lose. And they're like, yeah, I worked with a coach and they put me in a reverse diet for 6 months and they gained 10 pounds. And I'm like,
Yeah.
reverse dieting originated from people that are getting to like sub 10% body fat for a bodybuilding show and utilizing it as a way. So it's like,
Right.
while the things people are using for a reverse diet, I'm a huge fan of. It's just, I hate the broken narrative that is sent to so many people, especially because eventually it does get hard at some point. So if you think you're broken and somebody gave you the fix and now you're fixed and then it gets hard and you fail or fall off, it like really just deeply ingrains that guilt and shame that can come along for the ride. So, all right, I'm going to stop talking there because I feel like I could go all day about this.
No. Please. Honestly, most of our guests, we just literally talk nonstop. So it's so funny because when we have male guests on, they're always like, I'm talking too much. We're like, you're not even close to what we usually get into.
Love it.
So don't worry. As you were talking about reverse dieting, I was thinking about how in our field, this is something we see a lot. So in naturopathic medicine, we get stuck and clumped together with the rest of the wellness world. And what happens is people start to make their entire brand around one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting debunked, like debunking reverse dieting is really scary for the people who have built their entire business on reverse dieting, right? And so they're now going hard on it that this is what we're selling. This is what's going to work. This is the only thing that's going to work. And it's doing people a huge disservice. And then we have people like you and like us who are like, no, like it's actually not that complicated. Like you're not broken. You know, like you can kind of calm down there and like there's actually easy steps that we can do to help you make progress. And it's scary and it's so overwhelming for women. Like I feel bad because it's almost like we're preying on their vulnerabilities a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And then it's so hard because, and I think you're absolutely right. And that's where that, cognitive dissonance is a very strong factor that I don't necessarily even think that many of those people realize that. I mean, it doesn't take long to look at the research around that. And
yeah.
Anyways, it's tough too, because then it's really convenient on the business side to say that we need 6 months of not losing weight to fix you first. And I have the solution for that. So you have to stay with me and then we'll start losing weight. And like, I mean, for people listening, because Herman and I talk about this a lot. One of the coaches on our team, like I feel like us talking to each other, we can gloss over some specific things and then forget that the audience might not realize. So
Right.
the only when I would recommend a reverse diet, and I oh no we have balloons. And when I would
What was that?
I don't know. I think it's like Apple does it because it'll do like
Oh
a
my
thumbs up
gosh.
too. But all right, so I'm doing air quotes again. So a reverse diet. The times I would be a fan of that, which I wouldn't. I don't even want to call it that. And the most common avatar for this is a female who's on the leaner side, like pretty lean. Typically, what we see on our end are females that have endurance athletes, have done a lot of cardio in the past. They typically don't eat a lot. The times that I think it makes sense, and once again, not to fix a metabolism, but to, I think we could say, increase your metabolism,
Mhm.
would be to like, because our metabolism is flexible, right? So like if your maintenance calories say are 1800, if you're eating 1600 regularly, you do kind of down regulate some things and adapt to
Yeah.
that, and you might not lose weight. And just likewise, you can eat more than 1800. So maintenance is more of a range that we kind of adapt up and down to. And
Mhm.
so if we're on the bottom end of that range, we're not losing weight, we're maintaining weight, and we have a history of being pretty lean, it can make a lot of sense to stair step calories higher just to
Yeah.
maximize energy and get more fuel for your workouts and start to build a little bit more muscle. But that's a very specific person. That is not a person who has a significant amount of body fat to lose.
Right.
Like if you have 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds to lose, you can build, because most of the time those people haven't been strength training or following, a high protein diet. You can absolutely build muscle while you lose weight. So there is no reason why we need to, because building muscle is more signaling dependent than
Mhm.
calorie balance dependent, that a lot of people take it that way. Yeah, as you get more advanced, those things become more important. But for most people, if you have a lot of weight to lose, you can be building muscle while you lose the weight. So it's like there is
Mhm.
no reason. And I'm not saying you have to rush to lose weight either, but there's no reason we need to stay at maintenance, which ends up being a surplus for a lot of these people.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
literally had somebody come in that was like, yeah, I gained 20 pounds in my reverse diet. I'm like, that's like a dirty bulk. That's not a reverse diet. Like that's
Yeah.
not what that is. So
Yeah. I think with like the fix your metabolism piece is very similar to what me and Vic hear a lot about in the wellness space, where it's like fix your hormones or like balance your hormones. I
yeah,
think like
Mhm.
there's that whole conversation where it's like, did you really fix anything? Or was it you were doing the exercise, you were doing you were gaining muscle, you were doing all these things, and then everything kind of followed suit? I think me and Vic talk about this so much. Like, it's not sexy to say, okay, go to the gym, do your strength training, eat your protein. Like, people don't, it's not catchy. But when you're
yeah,
saying all these things about that your metabolism is broken, your hormones are broken, and when you finally fix that, you'll reach all your goals, people latch onto that. And I know we talked about that, but it's a whole other
Mhm.
conversation for sure.
yeah. And then the loudest people about the things that aren't true get the most clients and get the most
Yeah,
views, and it's tough out there.
it is.
Mhm.
It is. I want to talk about this concept that you talk about, passive fat loss. Can you kind of explain this concept and how there's habits that can drive fat loss without conscious tracking?
Yeah. Okay. So this would be more for like at the beginning of this conversation when we were talking about losing without tracking, someone that's new. I think, maybe a good way to think about this is I always say let's focus on more before less. And so someone that's new, hasn't been consistent exercising, hasn't been really paying attention to their diet, before we ever let's focus on the lowest hanging fruit. Before we ever focus on not having XYZ for dinner or not eating this
Mhm.
food. Why don't we just focus on eating more fiber, eating more protein, getting more steps in your day, getting outside more, just all these things we can do more of that are naturally going to lead to you feeling more full and regulating your appetite and leading to a decrease in calories,
Mhm.
ironically, even though it's not the main goal. It's just a lot more fun and enjoyable and less serious and less all or nothing type
Yeah.
because it's just not necessary. And I'm not saying that at some point you need to cut back on, if you're eating a ton of processed foods every night that are very high calorie, like yeah, at some point we're probably going to have to pay attention to that. But if you don't have
Mhm.
any fiber in your diet, you don't have any protein in your diet, and you're not moving, like that's just low on the totem pole for
Mhm.
driving results without like creating a very tough mental situation for someone.
Mhm.
Mhm. I like that too because it's, less overwhelming. Instead of
Yeah.
starting with, like, no more nighttime snacking,
Yeah.
like, all the things that it's, like, really, really hard to make those changes, it's a little easier to be like, "Okay, I can focus on hitting a protein target,"
Yeah.
right?
100%.
Um, how do we track protein and fiber if we're not tracking?
Oh yeah. Good question. So there's a few different ways. So if we start with protein, and like these are people that I do like I will soon or at some point be having them track it directly.
Mhm.
But honestly, it's just like sometimes it's just switching that in their brain to be like, hey, just look at this label for protein and fiber.
Yeah.
Or, if you're having XYZ for breakfast, okay, you're having like, yeah, I have a high protein breakfast. I'm having 2 eggs and toast. It's like,
Mm.
just look at
Yeah.
the box and be like, okay, so I think like a good there's a couple different ways. So if someone's listening and wants to start paying attention and not exactly ready for tracking, you can jump to tracking. But if you're not necessarily ready, like one thing would just be at 3 meals a day, try to get 2 palm-sized portions of protein in. So if it's like
Yeah.
meat, like a palm size, try to get 1 to 2, two ideally. A scoop of protein powder would be 1 palm size. Um, that's one way. And then for like honestly to keep it easy, sometimes for guys, I'm just like, let's just aim for 4 servings of 40 grams of protein or more. And then for women, just aim for 4 servings of 30 grams of protein or more. So that like 160 for guys and 120 for girls is going to be close enough for most. But I always try to keep in mind, like, hey, if you're getting 50 grams of protein right now, like 100 is going to be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
I
Um,
remember when I first started tracking my protein, and, like, I have been in nutrition for so freaking long, and I had just never realized how little protein I consumed. But the
yeah.
first day, I'm an all or nothing girl, like, I can't do slow increments of anything, so I just, like, jumped to, like, 120 grams of protein, and I was so full, like,
Yeah.
I can't even tell I don't even think I had dinner that night. I was like, "I can't, like, this is awful." But,
Yeah.
obviously, with time, it
And
becomes a lot
well,
easier.
and it's such a and that right there is such a great problem to have. It's like instead of like cutting out the
Yeah.
Oreos, like let's just be ridiculously full from protein. Like it's just way easier. And we were talking about this
It's
on a
so
group
true.
call yesterday. Like it's so funny when people are like, "Yeah, I'm just yeah, I'm finding a really hard time getting the protein in." We're like, "Yeah, that's kind of the point." Like it's great.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
but it's funny how we'll be like, I'm hungry, I want something, and it's like, all right, eat more protein. And it's like, no, I don't want that. But yeah,
Yeah.
What is the role? So we think a lot about like diet and then exercise when we're talking about weight management, but we don't really talk about like the non-exercise activity. We don't talk a whole lot, or I don't think we talk enough about sleep and stress and the
yeah,
role of those in
yeah.
sustainable fat loss. Can we touch on that before we move on?
Yes. So like on paper, if we ignore adherence and your ability to stick with something and the momentum and like building things that make you feel better as you go,
Mm.
non-exercise is huge. I think most people are surprised to see that on average, of course, like I feel like I preface these things because people comment on Instagram that are like, well, not, but
Yeah.
On average, like your exercise is like 10% tops of your daily calorie burn. So that's a very common mistake people make, that thinking that their exercise should be to burn calories, and just honestly
Mhm.
not really a great way to achieve caloric
No.
balance, especially if it's intense exercise. Like we will generally see appetite come up with that, so it can be offset pretty quick. And your movement throughout the day, I'm sure most people have seen it everywhere. Walking more is great, and so that's a bigger chunk than, and it's not just walking. Like technically you could say if you're going out for a walk to burn more calories, that is exercise. But like if we just say your movement outside of the gym is a big piece, and I've talked to countless people that they crush Orange Theory, they crush F45, they crush CrossFit, but they sit the rest of the day. And it's like the lowest hanging fruit for them is just to walk more in their day. But I'm glad you brought up the sleep and the stress, because I'm a circadian rhythm nerd, and it is so important. And like that's where steps can kind of be a back door into just light exposure and improving your sleep, because you're
Yep.
getting outside more. But like I always try to think about things like, I used to be like, if you could only do one thing, I want you to lift weights, because then you're going to start changing your body composition, and then you're going to take advantage of whatever the scale's doing, and
Mhm.
improve your metabolism. If we were robots, I would still say that, but like more recently, I've just I'm obsessed with thinking about things through momentum and maximizing momentum to then do the other things. And to me, that's circadian regulation. Like get outside for 10 minutes as early as you can, ideally at like right around sunrise. You can walk, you can sit in your backyard, and then blocking blue light after sunset. Those two things, like when we talk about bang for your buck, improving sleep, improving energy, improving mood, improving motivation,
Yeah.
regulating appetite, like the sun is going to regulate your appetite a little bit. Those things, like that will make strength training or adding protein or adding fiber a million times easier. And yeah, so that's it's very important, all that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I
Mhm.
need to become more of a morning person. I know Vic gets up at like 5:30 in the morning. I'm not getting up till 9, so I definitely need to to be more of a morning person to get on those sunrise walks.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like the cool part is, I was talking with a client this week about it. Like he's like, I'm not a morning person. And it's like, there was one paper that showed like people went out in nature for one weekend, like went camping for one weekend, and their circadian rhythm was like recalibrated to
Mhm.
sunrise and sunset in just a couple nights. So it's
Wow.
like, yeah, it'll suck for 3 days, but if you're putting those nerdy red glasses on after sunset, and you're getting out
Oh,
at
no.
5:30, you'll know, like all of a sudden within a few days, you're like, I'm waking up without an alarm right at sunrise. It's amazing.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna try
Mhm.
it out. Gonna place an Amazon order after this episode.
Amazing. Yeah, they're called the good ones on Amazon. They're Spectra 479.
Spectra
Um,
for
they're not
typing it in right
stylish.
now.
They're not stylish at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like,
Oh.
ah.
Yeah, but seriously, and this is the other thing with like, sorry, I'm obsessed with this stuff. So that's the thing too. Like if I said one thing, go strength train, you're not going to like people just you're not going to hit that like oh shit moment of like I'm never going to go
Mhm.
without this again, because it's like it takes a
Yeah.
while to see that
Yeah.
change. And a lot of people aren't comfortable in the gym. But
Yeah.
this like my clients, I'm like, just trust me, and they see the impact. And like even if you go to bed at the same time, but you've had those glasses on after 8:30 or whatever, you're like, oh my gosh, I can just feel myself like down regulating and like way more tired, and I fall asleep quicker. It's so easy, because I like you don't even have to stay off your phone. Like if you want to be on your phone, you still can. Just put the glasses on, and then it just hits this like escape velocity of like I'm never going back. And I think that's
Okay.
so cool, because it can be within a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm convinced. I'm placing
All
the
right.
order.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear how it goes, because it'll be awesome.
Amazing. I want to talk about hormonal shifts just a little bit. I know I mentioned it a little bit earlier, especially in women. I think there is obviously a little bit of nuance to this conversation, but I think there's a huge assumption online that hormones for women are the reason that people can't lose weight. So, how do you talk to your female clients about this?
Yeah. I always like to be honest with people. And I guess that's like an obvious statement, but I do think some people like justify not being honest because they're
Yeah.
like, this is going to get them to stick with it. And I think that just kicks the can down the road.
Yeah.
On paper, we are not machines, we are humans. So like, I just want to get out of the way that like, this doesn't mean this applies to everyone, but on paper, if we throw you in a metabolic ward and measure your calorie burn for the day and decrease your calories, you can still lose weight no matter what's going on hormonally. That is a fact.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's you don't like start gaining weight from eating too little or anything like that. Like if you are in a caloric deficit, you will still lose weight, but it can be a lot harder because if you don't feel well, it's going to be a lot easier or a lot harder to stick to
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
bottom line, any hormonal changes or physiology changes or anything going on in your life that makes it harder to stick with that, it it's a very real thing because that's the hardest part about all of this. So like that's what like I like to get out of the way. Yes, technically if we could put you in a lab and control everything you ate, we could get you weight loss,
Mhm.
but that's not real life. And so it's certainly not as drastic as everyone says. It's doable, but I think the main focus that people should have is managing that to feel your best so that you can stick with those things.
Hmm.
That's
Mhm.
usually how I try to kind of explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work in the thyroid space mostly, and I have that conversation a lot with people how your basal metabolic rate is actually only impacted by like 150 calories. That's like a good scoop of peanut butter or like a tablespoon of olive oil. It's not
Yeah,
the reason you gained 30 pounds in a short period of time.
right.
But talking to them about how when we address fatigue and depression and
Mhm.
the brain fog and the things that impact your day-to-day life that keep you from getting out of bed in the morning, that keep you from making good healthy decisions when it comes to food and lifestyle, that is where we see change. Right. And so it's like a gentle conversation because, yeah,
Yeah,
it is harder because you're so
yeah,
freaking tired. Like, I don't
yeah,
want to go to the gym when I'm fatigued. No, no one
right.
does. Right?
Yeah,
So it is a gentle conversation because it is a real thing, but
yeah,
I think it's also a disservice to tell people like, "Oh, your hormones are the reason that you're
Hmm.
right.
gaining weight," when that's not objectively true, right?
Yeah.
Well, and like on that note, I'm glad you brought up the 150 calories because that's not the reason that you maybe gain 30 pounds. But if somebody's online telling you you're going to gain 30 pounds because of this, that actually could, because then you're like, screw it. Like, I don't
Yep.
care anymore. You lose your motivation. You
Yeah.
feel helpless. You
Yep.
start eating more. You start moving less. And that can be
Yep.
very real too. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah. And like, obviously a big part of this on my end, I don't understand. I have not been in those shoes.
Yeah.
So I try to, because it's not going to be helpful for me to be like, you can still lose weight. Like
Yeah.
it's hard, right? And
Yeah.
but it's so interesting because like hypothyroidism, like yeah, it does make it harder. 150 calories isn't a lot. It's also decently significant on over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
Great way to
Fair.
get 150
Mhm.
calories back, build muscle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and that's another thing. People act like building muscle is gonna like get you an extra 600 calories a day. It's like,
I
If
wish.
only.
no, but like it like those stack up because most people gain like, I think it's most people gain like on average like 2 pounds a year, but then it's, 10, 20, 30 years goes by and here they are. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
um just as much at like it, I always just try to highlight if something's going on hormonally, guess what your provider, your doctor, your coach are going to end up having you do anyways. Move more throughout your day,
Yeah.
lift weights to build muscle, eat more protein. So I think like I'm a fan of blood work. Like go get it done, especially if you have that in your mind somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's just go make sure. But don't wait to start going on a walk at sunrise or whatever. Don't wait
Yeah.
to do that until you have your blood work back and you get on a thyroid medication if it's needed or whatever is
Yeah.
needed. Don't wait
Mhm.
because you're going to have to do these things either way. And
Mhm.
like, I get that it might be hard to go work out and do weights. So let's just walk. Like, let's just
Yeah.
walk. You don't need a crazy amount of energy for that. So I think that's the biggest thing because I think it takes away people's agency when they're told nonstop that this is the reason they can't lose and that it basically makes them stop doing things. It really
Mhm.
does.
100%. Mhm. Absolutely. And just before we move on, I'm just going to highlight for people listening that thyroid medication would also not help with weight loss. Because that's another
Mhm.
big thing we see. It's like, oh, I'll just correct the hypothyroidism and all the weight will fall off. And that's also not the case. So at the end of the day, your prescription is still going to be the same. You need to walk more. You need to fix your fatigue so that you have more energy. You need to eat better. All the principles apply.
Yeah.
We talk about skinny fat. That is something that we see a lot right now. I know you had talked about it recently on your Instagram, and I hate the term. I think it sounds awful, but it makes a lot of sense where weight loss and fat loss are very different things. What is your advice for women to maximize fat loss and not just getting smaller?
Yeah. Uh, it's actually super straightforward. Lift weights and eat protein. Like those two things
Perfect.
take care of
It's so
well, I
true.
guess, and then stress and sleep alongside that, just to get the most out of it. But yeah, if we look at the biggest indicators of that, it would be sufficient protein intake, sufficient weight training to send these two things on the nutritional side and the exercise side, send the signals to your body. We need to keep muscle around. And
Mhm.
so when you're losing weight, that will minimize. And honestly, if you're new to weight training, and protein intake, like we can get some muscle gain while you lose weight, which is going to be a way bigger impact on your body fat percentage and how toned you are. I always like to say the word tone because that
Yeah.
resonates way more with like build muscle. And from there, also sleep though. Like there's one study recently. I think it was like 5.5 hours of sleep compared to 8 maybe,
Yeah.
and it was like
Mhm.
60% less fat loss and like another
Wow.
significant percentage more muscle loss during weight loss, which they weren't weight training, they weren't eating a high protein diet, but it was a randomized control trial. It was a significant impact on how where
Yeah.
that weight is coming from.
Wow.
Mhm.
I think it's important for people to understand that just because you're in a smaller body doesn't necessarily mean you're more metabolically healthy. It really does come down to muscle, right? And I think that's a big misconception that people have. They just want to get smaller and smaller, but doesn't necessarily mean you're healthier, right? And I think
Yeah.
people look at it on the other side of things, like if you are overweight and all these things, but if you are smaller and you don't have muscle, you still may not be metabolically healthy. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
as you were saying that too, like uh it doesn't need to be 6 days a week of lifting weights. Like it can
No.
be, you could start with 2 or 3 days of like 20 to 30 minutes, putting in a high amount of effort. It doesn't need to be like high rep, low weight or like heavy weight, high rep or low reps.
Mhm.
We can get progress anywhere from like 5 reps to 30. Just put forth the effort and be consistent with it week over week. Like, don't just like do something random each week. Try to keep it
Mhm.
progressive, and that'll really help. And then one I hear a lot is like, I'm going to lose the weight and then build the muscle. And
Right.
Yeah.
like we just said, if you do that, you are losing muscle as you lose weight. So we need to get that in as soon as possible so that we can prevent that along the way because otherwise you'll dig yourself into a hole.
Yeah.
Mhm. I also think, like, you can put muscle on so much easier when you first start. right? Like it's so
Yeah.
much easier when you are not used to going to the gym. I remember like feeling like, oh my gosh, like this is easy. And then like 3 months in, I was like, oh, never mind. It's
Yeah.
actually really difficult.
Yeah. No, it's so cool. Like I get excited when we have the people come in that haven't been lifting because it's like, oh, we're gonna be able
Get
to
ready.
like you can
Hmm.
get
Yeah.
crazy body recomp without losing weight at first, or
Yeah.
losing weight. But yeah, and then fast forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you're fighting for like half a pound of muscle every 6 months. Like,
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so true.
yeah.
How do you typically recommend tracking progress? Are you getting your clients to use just like a typical at-home scale? Are you doing like body comp, like those like very specific clinical scales? Are you doing like clothing measurements? Is there like a way that you typically go about it?
Yeah, I'd say on average for a quote unquote typical client, we will weigh in 3 times a week, if not more, if they're open to it. And if they have some hesitation around that, that's something, obviously that's a mindset behavior change conversation.
Mhm.
But not to say that we're like no weighing in. It's kind of working with what's coming up around that. And then we'll do progress pictures and body measurements once a month, usually like a hip and a waist. Sometimes if people want, like some people are just love the data, we'll do like an arm measurement, all the things. But typically hip and waist progress photos, those are once a month. And then tracking weights in the gym and progress there is a huge piece
Mhm.
for us.
Yeah.
Not just to like get stronger, but like if your weight isn't changing and you're drastically getting stronger in your lifts week over week for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, that's a great sign you're building muscle if the plan is correct. So that's a good proxy for us to like a good short term measure to predict longer term muscle gain.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I like the weight tracking. That's smart. I never really thought of it like that, but it's a good proxy for sure. And I like the progress photos because I think people are their biggest critic. And if you're looking at yourself in the mirror every single day, it's really
Yeah,
hard to see that change over time, right? So the photos I think are so key.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's so common. Like I don't really notice a difference. And like on our end, we're like, what are you talking about? Like, are you
Yeah.
Yeah.
even when they have the pictures, we're like, look at this. And we're like, oh wow, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's crazy.
For sure. What are some tips that you have on helping people stay full for longer? I know when dieting, this can be like a big struggle.
Yeah, so a good balanced meal with protein, fiber, healthy fats is going to be the go-to. And then what I would also say is consistency around your meals. So I'm
Mhm.
a big fan. I know fasting has been super super popular. Honestly, like I'm way bigger of a fan of like let's get a high protein, high fiber breakfast in every
Yeah.
day. And so keeping that consistent will be huge. Then we could talk about like more of the mindful eating side of things. Like let's really slow down, put the phone away, put the screens away, focus on your meal, really chew each bite.
Mhm.
If you have kind of a well-rounded plate, we can focus on your protein and your veggies first. Those things are going to really help. But in general, just getting a lot of protein and fiber and healthy fats at each meal, fibrous vegetables, those are going to
Mhm.
be way higher volume. And then like zooming out more big picture, if we're walking more, if we're lifting weights, we're going to be able to get progress on a higher amount of calories. Like that's
Right.
our goal is always let's get progress for the highest amount of calories we possibly can. Because if you start cutting calories and ignoring your steps, your calorie burn, your muscle mass, you're just racing to the bottom. And
Yeah.
like it just gets harder along the way. And honestly, like a lot of the times we'll just start someone at their like predicted maintenance calories, but we'll
Yeah.
increase their step count and their movement and all these things, and they'll start getting weight loss without ever like quote unquote cutting calories. But for
Yeah.
people
Okay.
listening, it's like we're just increasing calorie burn. We're not, it's not like
Mhm.
a magic thing. We're just not changing your calories in. We're improving
Mhm.
calories out and getting weight loss there.
I think that's a really important conversation when it comes to sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Because we can cut your calories super low and get amazing fast weight loss, but
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to do that long term,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? So even
Yeah.
just like, yeah, maintenance, but increasing your movement and that calorie burn, it's actually amazing. And you
Yeah.
realize like how much you can eat and still get those results, which I think is really cool.
For sure.
I want to talk about the mindful eating thing. I've had my own realization that when I watch TV and I eat, I like forget that I even had dinner sometimes. Like I'm so you're not focused on it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really big thing. So many of us eat in front of the TV nowadays or even just scrolling on our phones. So, how do we talk about like that whole idea of like intuitive eating or mindful eating from a weight loss standpoint or from a fat loss standpoint?
Yeah, so this is where combining that with tracking your food can be really powerful, and not doing either or, but paying attention to both. So honestly, it's kind of interesting because like there there is research on how fast you eat, how much you chew your food, all these things, but it is kind of like there's a case to be made that it's like, okay, well, like if you're just eating more nutrient dense unprocessed foods, you're
Yeah.
naturally going to have to slow down and chew more. So it's like it's kind of one
Yeah.
of those things. It's like chicken or the egg, right? Like, is it really like if we're grabbing McDonald's, it doesn't really matter how slow we eat. Like, it'll help a tiny bit, but like that compared to a chicken breast and broccoli, like you just have to chew those a lot more. But in
Yeah.
general, like slowing, like really slowing down, removing the distractions. And I think this is important, just not even for drastically reducing your calorie intake, but just for life in general, right? Slowing down, kind of getting some of that rare parasympathetic nervous system activation, right? Like we're all so go 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 and trying to fill every
Mhm.
second with information. So slowing down, really chewing each, like one of those studies says like chewing 30 times or something, and I'm always just like, don't count your chews, like
No.
just that's psychopathic. Let's just like a good proxy would be like try to get it to like an oatmeal like consistency before swallowing, like because we get
Right.
so focused on what, like looking for the next bite and just grabbing the next one, like just really slowing down. You could slow
Mhm.
down your breath anytime, whether you're eating or not. Just slow down the exhales between meetings, whatever. That's going to be really helpful for you to get out of that fight or flight we're all always stuck in so commonly.
Mhm.
Drinking water, like dare I say, drinking some water before your meals. I think the gurus said that that'll like shift your stomach's pH if you do that, and it's really bad for
Oh
you.
god.
But that's just
Oh no. Not
insane.
the gurus.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it can. I think it's really like realistically, if you change nothing about what you're doing exercise wise and what you're eating, and you just slow down and pay attention to it, is it going to like lead to significant weight loss? Probably not. But this is just
Yeah.
something to be paying attention to help you actually tune into yourself and your own hunger, and start to I think precision nutrition, a very common recommendation is let's try to stop at 80% full instead of
Yeah.
waiting until we're stuffed.
Right.
So slowing down is just really going to help prevent, give you time for those satiety signals to come to your
Yeah.
brain uh, before you're just inhaling, 2,000 calories.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Just chew your food, everyone. I know it's crazy, but
Yeah,
just chew your food.
right.
um, what's one piece of advice you wish that more people knew or believed when it came to fat loss?
One piece that I wish more people knew. I think, and this is going right back to the conversation earlier, sunlight is not a nice to have. It's a necessity. It's so important. Uh, the benefits are endless, and it doesn't have to be crazy either. I understand, like we have jobs, we have to be inside, but I think shifting towards this lens of what is going to make me feel my best and sleep my best is so underrated, because I think a lot of people just hear, oh, I need to sleep more. Oh, I should pay attention to my sleep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What should I be
Yeah.
doing for my exercise? But it is
Mhm.
so powerful from both an adherence standpoint and every single system in your body being on point, that's been my rabbit hole lately. And so
Yeah.
get outside as close to sunrise as you can and put those red glasses on at night, and then everything else gets way easier.
I like it. That is probably going to be your answer to the last question anyway, but let's just give it a go. If someone's listening, they're feeling overwhelmed by everything they've seen online, they want to start their fat loss journey, they want something to do today to help them make that first step. What's your advice?
Yeah, my answer would have been walk outside at sunrise for 10 minutes or more every morning. But
Okay.
let's just pair that with one nutrition thing. Just start
Yeah.
getting just start getting protein in. Start paying attention to protein. You don't have to jump to 120 to 160 grams right off the bat. Maybe just start with a high protein, high fiber breakfast
Perfect.
right around that morning walk, and then boom,
Yeah.
those two things will be great.
Okay,
Love
amazing.
it.
Those are definitely things that people can start doing today. So I love it. Okay, it's time for rapid fire. This is our favorite part of the episode. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 statements that we've seen online in the wellness space. So basically, you can just say myth, truth, or it depends. We like to keep it quick, but if you want to elaborate, feel free. I
Okay.
think we've covered most of these, but we just want to drive some of the points home.
Okay.
All
Cool.
right, let's go. Tracking macros is the only way to be successful.
Myth.
Okay. You need to eat 6 small meals a day to boost your metabolism.
Myth.
Cardio is better for fat loss than strength training.
Myth.
You should walk 10,000 steps per day for weight loss.
It depends.
Okay.
Let's go on the number, but it'll help.
Yeah.
But you don't
Yeah, I
have
think
to.
I don't know where the 10,000 steps a day came from, but it just seems to be that number that's thrown around, right?
I feel
Yeah,
like it's a good number though.
it
It's just
is, and that's the
unpopular
thing.
opinion.
Right. It is. It's like it's a stretch. It's not too much. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people were like, this came from nowhere, but it's like, well, it's a round number and it is pretty decent. I usually
Yeah.
if you're at like 3, 4, 5, or 6,000, my first target for you is usually like 7 or 8,000, but 10 is great.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a round number. It's not like you're going to be like 6,400 and whatever many steps. That's not going to
Yeah.
sell on social media. Women should be eating 1,200 calories a day to lose weight.
Myth.
Calorie counting does not work for weight loss long term.
It depends.
Yeah. Mindful eating can help with weight maintenance long term.
True.
Okay, last one. If you exercise and burn 200 calories, you can eat 200 calories more that day.
Myth.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Perfect.
Darn it. Okay, that was good. Very rapid, which we love. This was an amazing episode, Brooks. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited that we could actually get you into the schedule. I know you're busy, so it means a lot to us that you were able to chat with us today. Let our audience know where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can book with you as well with your online coaching business, all of that.
Yeah, I would say Instagram's easiest. Just search Brooks Coleman. My handle's the Brooks Coleman. And then our business, we actually just started like a very low tier program called Fit for Life, which is for people that it's not like one-on-one coaching. It's just like you want to use our app and get strength training workouts. So you can get
Cool.
3 or 4 days a week, home or gym workouts. We have a beginner track if you're brand new to it. We're doing calls with the group and there's a group chat. So it's just $37 a month and we have a 7-day free trial too.
Nice.
So you can join and quit and, you'll get a fat loss 101 guide if you join too. So, even if you quit
Cool.
before the free trial ends, you'd still get that. So, you can find that through my Instagram, for sure.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, we'll put everything in the show notes. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.